Welcome to the Coaches Preview Show. I'm your host, Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director, and today's special guests are the basketball coaches from Brentwood High School and Summit High School, talking about tonight's big district matchup, Brentwood High School visiting Summit. We're going to start with the girls coaches from Brentwood, Myles Thrash, from Summit, John Wild. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
A lot has happened in the past week and a half with the district starting to shape up a little bit. Summit loses a couple in a row to Spring Hill, but then they follow that up with wins over Brentwood, Page, and Centennial. Brentwood, after dropping that game, which really was your first loss for some time, Coach Thrash, to Summit, you bounce back, and what do? You go on the road and you beat undefeated Spring Hill by 16. So certainly makes tonight's game very exciting. Coach Thrash, it's a competitive league where a lot of teams can beat a lot of other teams.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt. Very competitive league, from top to bottom. If you don't come in with your A game, you can be beat on any given night.
Coach Wild, something you've talked about for a while is the parity in the league. Not that we don't want to go backwards, but 15 years ago, it was Brentwood's league. Coach Thaler and Brentwood, they were the team here. Certainly Brentwood's still a great program with Coach Thrash at the helm, but there's some other teams now. It's one of those deals that you match up with us in the region and or the sub-state. You're going to be facing a quality team with a quality coach in a quality league. Even though the top 4 or 5 is starting to shape up a little bit, Coach Wild, when we get to the tournament, it may be more about matchup as much as anything. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. I think, our game it's all about matchups. And certain teams match better with other teams and don't match so well with others. But, you just want to try to be playing your best ball that third week in February, which you know that. You've done it forever too. And I'll echo what you said about, the league. It's just gotten so much better. I've told you this and a number of coaches and Tate on his show that I think this county's girls teams and programs have grown. And, I think success has kind of bred success. Brentwood was so good forever and still are really good that other teams just felt the need to, get on board. And you have kids working, I think, a lot more than they have in the past, on their own. I think you've got some good travel clubs around here that are developing these kids, and they're playing year round, which they have to do to try to, become a better player. So it's exciting to see Williamson County girls basketball come on board and grow every year. I've been here 4 years, and it's gradually gotten better. They're great coaches. There's very good players. There's kids that seem like they're signing to play at the next level more and more every year. That's a credit to, their work ethic and their high school coach trying to develop them along the way.
Coach Thrash, Coach Wild sort of alluded to this with playing a lot in the off season. Something that I know you guys are proud of at Brentwood is you have a lot of multi-sport athletes. I don't know if that's how much that impacts your individual team right now, but what's neat about it for me is not only you're seeing all these teams get better, you're at a place at Brentwood where you guys have the most multi-sport athletes in the state of Tennessee. I don't know if you know that, but I thought that was pretty special when I saw that.
Yeah, that's really special. And me personally, I think that plays a lot in being any great athlete, that to be well-rounded and play multiple sports. I grew up playing multiple sports, and I think it takes a lot of focus and determination also to be a part of that. And I think that's a really good thing to be a multi-sport athlete. It's hard in some cases, but I think it also just has them well-rounded.
Coach Wild, you have probably the face of multi-sport athletes on your team. Claudette Runk, heck of a run there in the state tournament. She's an important part of your team. I know she's battling to get back. And then also plays softball. I think, if she could play a fourth or a fifth sport, she would do it.
Yeah, she's a tough kid. And I think, I think she's been raised the right way. I think, her mother and father have raised her the right way and pushed her But I think, you know, with her playing golf and softball and basketball, I think it forces her and other multi-sport athletes to figure it out, create toughness on how they're going to get through everything, because sometimes there's some overlap, and you know, she's mentally there too, and she just kind of figures it out. But yeah, good kid, plays hard. Has had a really good year for us, and had a really good fall in golf, got the state tournament, and you know, I'm sure she'll do big things in softball too this spring. She's just a really tough kid, and you know, a junior, so she'll get to go through it again next year.
Coach Wild, let's talk a little bit more about your team. This is the first time that you're on the show this year. Been a little bit of a roller coaster for your team in terms of cancellations. I think you guys probably dealt on the girls' side with more cancellations than anyone, kind of the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak, in terms of the schedule. And you've also faced some injuries. So, you know, I was thinking about this coming into the show today. You're a guy that's coached for a lot of years. You've coached in a lot of different types of teams and a lot of different systems. But even the craziness, or excuse me, even with your experience, the craziness of this year with COVID and all the things that we've gone through, your schedule being different, this has to be different than anything you've really faced.
It is. You know, the quarantine hit us early, and we lost the game against Myles and his bunch, and then we lost the Ravenwood game, so we had to bounce that into January. Then couldn't play, you know, right before Christmas, which we probably really needed to. So, you know, I think we were out about 20 days. So we threw the thing together after Christmas, where we got some teams in here and played Nolensville and played a really good Westmoreland team. So that kind of helped, you know, trigger us into January. But then, you know, because of all that, you're playing 3 games a week. So it's tough. I think it's so much more mental than it is physical as we went through that. Try to be mentally sharper, because you had 3 games and there was probably more film and more walkthrough and that sort of thing to try to balance out the physicality that you were going through. It was hard. And then you couple in, you know, the couple kids that we've had going out over the last couple of weeks. You know, it's been tough, but it's forced some other kids to step up and play when they probably thought that they weren't going to be in that situation. They've had to step in and try to compete. So yeah, you're right. It's been difficult, but I think our kids have held it together pretty good, and we've had some good leadership, forcing other kids to be accountable for kind of the things we're going through.
Coach Wild, also, you know, if you talk about your team, you've got to start with the leadership and the play of Ellie Colson, and then Delaney Knoll, who's new to your team, but certainly not new to the league, who's really, really playing well. And like you said, even beyond those two, Bratton's obviously played well for you, but you've had some young players really step up as well, which, you know, looking at the positives, that's certainly got to help you late in the season.
Well, I think it's all about creating depth, right? Because, you know, sometimes in that tournament, it's that 6th, 7th, and 8th kid, because, you know, they're keying on all the other ones. So, you know, Ellie's had a pretty good year. Delaney's had a good year. I think our sophomores have grown. I think Bratton's played well of late, particularly on the boards. I think she had 9 over at Myles Place last Saturday, and then had against Page had 8 this week. So there's a lady that did this thing a long time up in Knoxville that said rebound, and you got to do that first. So we've done that. We hadn't shot the ball particularly well, you know, and I hope that comes around. But yeah, it's been fun so far. You know, we've got a battle tonight, and they do such a good job. So many multiple defensive schemes that kind of force you to be on your toes. Then 2 really, really good players in Amelia and Sydney, and some other really key role players. So we'll have our hands full. But, you know, that's what the league's all about. You got to bring your A game, like Myles said. You got to be ready to fight every night. And it's good for the county. It's good for the student bodies. And I wish they could come back and see it, you know, here quickly. Good for the communities. And we're just going to give it our best shot.
Coach Thrash, big win Tuesday night at Spring Hill, 58-42, really an impressive, convincing win. Amelia Osgood, Sydney Ryan and no surprise, led your team in scoring with 15 each. But that was huge, I thought, for your team. Not that the sky is falling, but when you've won so many games in a row like you guys had, I think sometimes what can happen is you lose one and it seems big, like a bigger deal than it really is. Talk about your mindset that you guys had on the way back in to playing that game against Spring.
Yeah, it was really good for our team and our players, especially coming off of that loss. You know, they were a little disappointed. They wanted to come out and play. Some of them feel like they didn't play as well as they normally would. Some of them did a tremendous job of making us kind of think a lot more and taking us out of a lot of things we wanted to do. And, you know, we had to get back to the drawing board. And, you know, and I challenged them, you know, and I told them, you know, true character of a team that wants to go to the state tournament or be a champion will come out in games like this and this show. And they responded really, really well. And I'm proud of them for it.
Thrash, I'm glad you mentioned that be a champion, go to the state tournament. That's something as a coach that I love, that you always embrace that. You don't hide from that. You openly say, look, we've got these lofty goals. We want to win the league. We want to make it to the state tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely. I feel like, of course, at Brentwood, we have talent. There's always been talent there. And expectations come in differently every year. But I just always been that way, man. I always want to be the best. As a player, I played that way. I feel like that's the way you should approach it. And it's not nothing arrogantly, but I just think it's a standard you also got to set, you know, as a coach, and they set it for your team, and they'll try to go out and accomplish those goals. So, you know, when we got really good players, I think that should be the bar.
Coach, talk about, I know Sydney and Amelia get a lot of attention, and they should. But you're not a two-person show here. Sophie Roston, Chloe Wampler, Kate Workman, to name a few, really playing well for the Lady Bruins right now.
Well, yeah, they've embraced their roles this year. We got a few girls who's asked to do a lot more than they've normally done. Versus last year's team, you know, I kind of talk to them. I give them a little tough time, but I try to be honest with them. Last year's team, where you get Sophie, she'd have a 6 or 7 point, but that would be the 75th point. You know what I'm saying? Versus her 6 or 7 now, it's 18, 16 is needed. You know what I'm saying? So I threw that challenge out them for them and to kind of step their game up and you know, answer that challenge as well. So, you know, they've been playing well. You know, we got exposed a little bit against Summit that we need to be better at, and I hope, you know, we can answer some of those challenges and try to get to our ultimate goal.
Taking a look at the district standings, at least at the time of this show, Independence, Centennial, Franklin, Dixon, the pretty obvious bottom four right now. Ravenwood in the middle of the pack at 6 and 3, and then it gets really crowded.
Yeah.
Spring Hill 7 and 1, Page 8 and 2, Summit 8 and 2, Brentwood 9 and 2. Coach Wild, you know, you've been through it a lot. You've seen a lot of this. To me, it's starting to shape up that there's going to be a tiebreaker involved somewhere in terms of where you finish. There's too many teams that are piled up right now, or a coin flip.
Well, you know, that's why you've got to be ready to play every night, and you can't pick and choose when you want to play, because when you do that, you're going to get clipped in this league, and then it's going to end up costing you maybe a 4 seed versus a 3 seed. So, you know, and I know the kids get tired of hearing it, but we got to practice the same way, you know, because that's going to carry over. We got to try to impose our will on people every single night, no matter who we're playing. Every possession's important. You got to take care of the ball and get more possessions, and you got to try to win the rebounding battle, because that's going to give you more possessions. So, you know, I know a lot of that's cliche, but it's really pretty simple stuff, and that's all we're trying to do.
Coach Thrash, I know you're not looking ahead beyond tonight, but your stretch coming up is pretty tough. You just played Spring Hill. You got Summit tonight and still have to take on Page and Ravenwood. So we're going to learn a lot about your team here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. You know, we got a really good stretch, tough stretch. I'd say you want to be playing your best ball around this time of year, and it'll show in these games. You know, I preached our girls over the last couple of nights. These are playoff games. It's playoff atmosphere. These are playoff games, and it's meaningful games. So we're looking forward to it. It's, of course, the challenge, but, yeah, we have a really tough stretch. We got to be focused.
Coach Wild, as we finish up here, Give me a key or a couple of keys for tonight's game for your team to be successful beyond Osgood and Ryan and Workman and some of those people not showing up. I know that's what you're going to say, but give me something that we can actually use here.
Well, I think you got to worry. I think you got to worry about Amelia and Sydney, right? So that's where we'll start. But I'll flip the script. Offensively, we're going to take care of the ball. They do a number of things well defensively. They change defenses a lot, which kind of will confuse you from time to time, I guess, if you're not aware, if you don't have kids aware of the situation. So I would say, just value and possession of the ball and attacking whatever they throw at us. Because they're really good up the floor with their 2-2-1, their half court 2-2-1. They play some zone, play man. So, you got to be ready, and every possession matters. So, we're going to have to be really smart and recognize and attack accordingly, I would say. So with that, then I'm back to Sydney and Amelia, because you can't let those two kids go off. They're great players. And Myles has done a great job with them, putting them in situations to have success.
Coach Thrash, what about for the Lady Bruins tonight?
Oh, man, we got to definitely come in focused. We have to be on our A game. He does a tremendous job with his team defensively. They are a very good defensive team. I think the best defensive team in this district. By far, they are. They present so many challenges, with Colson inside, so physical. So we have to really be able to match their intensity, and we got to be physical. And I think we got to show a little bit more poise and patience, playing him, because he don't play checkers. He plays chess. So, and that's just about him. And he's such an awesome coach, and I learned a lot from him. And we want to just be able to come out and compete, and hopefully have a great game, injury-free, and may the best team win it.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. I know you're focused on tonight's game, but I appreciate your time.
All right.
You're welcome. And I'll say this. I know I'm going to lose the best dress award tonight.
I agree with you there, Coach. I agree with you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
We'll be right back to talk with Greg Shirley and Jim Fay, the head boys coaches at Brentwood and Summit High School. Welcome back to the Coaches Preview Show. We now have the boys head coaches for tonight's big district matchup. We've got Greg Shirley from Brentwood High School, Coach Jim Fay from Summit High School. Appreciate you guys being here today.
Good to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Brentwood's coming off a big win at Spring Hill on Tuesday night. Summit had a tough loss against Centennial in overtime, so tonight's game certainly is a big one, like all district games are. Coach Shirley, your team had to play a lot of games in the past couple of weeks, and now for the most part, you're pretty much caught up. That had for your team had to have been an adventure trying to get caught up.
Yeah, for 4 weeks in a row, we had to have 3 games to make up the games that we missed in December. So after this week, we'll be completely caught up. So tonight's a big game. Like I said, we've had a lot of running up and down the floor. So I know that it will be good to get back to our 2-game weeks in the future.
Coach Fay, your team had some other kinds of catching up to do. You guys were fortunate, and I thought it was neat how you were really open about supporting that run that the football team had to the state championship. Certainly, Coach Shirley has some football players on his team as well. Brentwood makes it all the way to the state championship game against Oakland. Obviously, Summit comes out with a 28-7 state championship win over Oak Ridge. The difference with your team, which is kind of unique, I think, it's really the core of your team. I've been to some games, and I look out there, and you've got 5 guys on the floor who all play football. So although I know you're one of those guys that supports and wants these guys doing multiple sports, as we all do, the reality of it is it's taken you a little bit to get in basketball form, so to speak.
Well, that's an understatement, and it's a never-ending process right now. And absolutely, I do support Coach Coleman and our football program. They had a tremendous year. You can't ask for anything more. I mean, they reached the top, and that's we're hopeful that they can have some great success like that again next year. But at this point, I'm thinking about opening up a billboard ad looking for some basketball only players to move to Spring Hill because I'm in desperate need of guys that can be here from start to finish, because I've had so many things happen this year, excluding football, that I've basically had to start over from scratch at least 4 times this year. And it's been, and the growing pains are obvious.
I do think also that not having the summer as far as growth as a team, that's the way that a lot of the football players can kind of be completely invested and included to make the transition from after football to basketball.
Well, and this is probably a different conversation for a different day, but I think you guys would both agree, as we get into these districts that are smaller, something that is going to be helpful is that we can play the district games after Christmas. Because I've always said teams that have football players who are big time parts of the team, what ends up happening by the tournament, their seeding may be off, which actually hurts the other teams. You may have a team coming in seeded 5th or 6th because it took them longer to get rolling. And what it ends up doing, you're a 2 or a 3 seed and you play a team that really is better than their seeding. So I think we would probably all agree that that's going to be a benefit of the smaller leagues, that we can start district play a little bit later. Coach Fay, particular question about your team. You can't really talk about Summit without talking about Destin Wade and Wirtz. Those guys have great experience for you. When you watch your team play, it's obvious they're leaders out there.
They are. They've played pretty well for me so far this year. And coming back, I expected to have 3 other starters returning with them, but at this point in time, they're the only starters I have from last year's team. So that's it's been some trial and error trying to put some guys out there to keep up with those guys and continue to be successful. But Canada and Destin they've given me about everything they've got, so I can't ask for more from them.
Talk about the play of Brady Pierce, Trey Hunter as well. Another couple young men who've played well for you too this year.
Well, Trey is a 3-sport athlete, and he does a lot for us. He's had some ups and downs, and if he finds his niche out there, then he can be highly successful in what we do and very beneficial for us as a team. Brady's a unique guy because he's a tremendous athlete, and he's had some ups and downs because simply he's been injured his freshman and sophomore year. He did not finish either of those seasons, and so Brady is like almost like a double redshirt freshman out here for us, because he's just, he's not got the time. He's done some really good things for us, and he's knocked down some shots, and I think his shots coming around, which he's more than capable of scoring for us. But again, he lacks a large portion of experience.
Coach Shirley, let's talk a little Brentwood basketball here, coming off a couple of big wins here. I looked at your schedule, and down the stretch, not only tonight's game with Summit, I know you're zoned in on tonight's game, but I have the luxury of looking ahead, right? Page, Ravenwood, Independence, Centennial. You've got a gauntlet coming up. It's got to be a stressful time, but a fun time of year too.
Well, Williamson County is every night. I mean, every night we know it's going to be a battle. So, we're going to embrace the challenge and take one step at a time. But yes, a lot of teams are improving throughout the year, and coaches are coaching them up. So you make adjustments from the first game. So yes, it will definitely be a challenge tonight, as the games you mentioned.
Coach, this past week, pretty special. John Winley scored his 1,000th point. I mean, I know we talk about him all the time, Griffin Burke and some of those other guys you have that are just staples of Brentwood High School. And I know Coach Fay and some others are really looking forward to graduating. But talk about John Winley and what a special moment that was. And if I know John like I think I do, he could have cared less. He's more worried about getting that win.
Well, first of all, Coach Fay mentioned having a double redshirt freshman. So I want to know if I can reclassify John Winley to being a junior this year. So that's my first question. But no, the young man is just like the perfect example of a student athlete. I mean, he's a tremendous student. He's going to Johns Hopkins University. Just a great young man that has put countless hours on his own working as far as conditioning and getting shots up. He had no clue that it was 1,000 points. I think it's obviously a nice keepsake and nice accomplishment. I think he was proud of that. But yes, he's 100% all the time about the team. He would have been just as happy if one of his teammates had scored their 1,000 point.
Well, certainly that's what helps make him so special, I know. Let's talk a little bit about the district. Spring Hill and Dixon County looking like that's going to be the 8-9 seeds right now. Something pretty special would have to happen for them to get out of 8-9. Then you got Centennial at 3 and 6, and then it gets really crowded. Page, Independence, Summit all at 5 and 5. Brentwood, Ravenwood 7 and 3 and 8 and 3. And then Franklin atop the league at 10 and 1. Coach Fay, as I'm looking at this, right now, not only are you in that pile for 4, 5, and 6, an advantage you have, at least right now, is you have wins over the other 5 and 5 teams. So as it stands now, you would get the tiebreakers. I know there's a lot of basketball to play, but that's got to be something you at least think about, because the way the district tournament's going to be set up, and really the whole tournament, is it's going to be important. The more home games you can play, the better off for your team. And right now you would have a home game.
Right. I mean, you know, we were fortunate enough to get those wins over Page and Independence, but you know, we were a different team then. We've had some losses since then, and it's had its own effect on us. I still feel like we can regroup and get the job done. But at the end of the day, we have to do it. And that's something we're going to have to really harp on and hopefully get the job done, because I'd much rather play at home than some of the other schools that you mentioned.
Coach Fay, I hope you figured that out Saturday morning.
Right. That's about when it'll happen.
Coach Fay, talk about, I mean, you had a tough game with Centennial the other night, had some chances down the stretch with some free throws to maybe put that game away. Talk about the mindset of your team coming into tonight's game. Obviously, you got some tough kids, some kids that have been through the wars, not only in basketball, but in football as well. But talk about that mindset coming in.
Well, I just feel like our mindset, you know, I do have some competitive kids, some tough kids, but I feel like we've got to get over the hump. I feel like that, we played our last couple of wins have been over weaker teams, and I feel like we've got to get over the hump against a team that's either with us or above us. Obviously, Brentwood would be a great win, but that's a tall mountain to climb. I mean, we've got to do some things to make ourselves better, and mentally we've got to get some confidence built back up, and that's the struggle we're at right now. I think we're lacking confidence. I think it's something we can gain some confidence, but at the end of the day, you got to get some wins, and there's nobody going to feel sorry for you in this league, so you're going to have to do it on your own.
Coach Shirley, your team solidly in the top 3 at this point. Still a lot can happen. Franklin, obviously, with an advantage right now with a couple of game lead on you and Ravenwood. Still a lot. I mean, we've got several games left. Your positioning can obviously get better, could get worse too. So still have a lot to play for down the stretch here.
Well, I think we're still a long ways from being the best Brentwood team we can be. I think in the past, pretty much could make small steps throughout the season, because I think we'd come into the season ready to go, but missed a lot of days early on for COVID reasons and so forth. And we're still becoming the team we can be. So I look at it as to embrace our journey, and then the consequences will be that we can become a better basketball team.
Well, you're obviously trending in the right direction, playing some good basketball as of late. Coach Shirley, let's talk a little bit, or excuse me, start with Coach Fay. Let's talk a little bit about tonight's game. What are some keys for you guys to be successful? It sounds like in talking to you, your big focus, not that you're not worried about the opponent, but you're still pretty inward focused on trying to get your team right about the way they feel about themselves. But what are some keys going into tonight?
Well, I mean, number one, we've got to execute on offense. If we're not executing, then it makes it tough for us to score points. Brentwood does a really good job of handling pressure and protecting the basketball. So we have to be able to execute on offense. Free throws, we found that out last night, how we're struggling with that. We've got to knock down free throws if we can execute and put ourselves in position to draw fouls. And then most important, we've got to go out there and we've got to rebound. And we just don't have the rebounders right now. So we're going to have to rely on technique and get that done. If we don't rebound, it's going to be a tough game, because that was one of the difference makers in the game. Saturday night. I mean, I think they out rebounded us by our stats by 12, and there's no way to beat anybody that out rebounds you. If you don't do something, that's a lot of rebounding is effort and pride and physicality. And if you haven't got some of those things going in your favor, it's going to be a struggle. So that's something we've really harped on this last week, is to hit the boards and try to make things happen both on the offensive board and the defensive boards.
Coach Shirley, how about for the Bruins?
Yeah, it's a unique situation. Playing them last Saturday and playing again, it's, that doesn't usually happen. So, first of all, they're going to be, we know Summit's going to be very well coached. When you have Dustin Way on your team and as athletic as their point guard is, and they shot the ball, I thought, well against us the first time, especially at the beginning of the game. Got to handle their pressure. We got to make sure we are the best Brentwood team we can be. Beat a very talented team.
Well, gentlemen, we're looking forward to it. I know you're busy. I appreciate you joining me today.
I look busy. I have like a chalkboard in my background, like old school. And Coach Fay, that's impressive.
Coach Fay's hanging out in the gym.
Yeah, I'm just going to roll backwards and I'll be in class.
There you go.
Thank you for joining us for the Coach's Preview Show. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.